Our subject matter is quite aggressive for today's webinar, and it's about how to boost your firm's relevance. If you are a professional firm dealing with family businesses, this webinar is for you. OEE increase. If you increase OEE by 5% or 10%, your gross margin increases. It's a huge impact on your projection. So this is huge, and that is why we've been able to charge for results since 1999. I've been 50% of the time an interim CEO and other 50% of the time a business coach. Became a 100% results-based business improvement consultant. So every month I would only charge 10% or a small percentage of the incremental cash flow that I would generate for my clients. I did this because I didn't want to become a consultant. I didn't think consultants were adding much value, and I was basically forcing myself to make a difference in this way. So I've been doing this for a long time now, and it was good validation to be a winner of the Large Transaction of the Year award. This was for a NASDAQ-listed company, Swisher Hygiene. I've been on the TMA, the Turnaround Management Association's awards committee for almost 10 years now. And I look at the cases that are being submitted for the best turnarounds and transactions of the year. And it's very obvious that the best techniques are not being used. Any operation can be viewed as a series of steps. And this is the most generic case. And there's always a certain flow. So always think of what is the flow. And if you can affect the flow, you can impact the income statement of a company. So flow is often seen like this. There are inventory that is in a product flow if you are a product company. But don't switch off if you are a service company or a bank or a knowledge-based company. The same applies. The inventory should just be seen as time because they are physical queues of work. Some of your people waiting for other people to complete things before they can do things. By definition, if you look at the bottleneck in a system, by definition, one of them will have the lowest capacity. Now, the question I have is, what will be the impact on the company's cash flow if we can improve the bottleneck of a company by 20%? And I'm calling it OEE. OEE is overall equipment effectiveness. I think I had it defined here. Now, you can Google this. This has been used for 30 years by the lean practitioners. But a lot of certified turnaround professionals do not know how to apply OEE properly in a projection for a company. And my assertion in this webinar is that that limits their accuracy of what they are able to project and the change they are able to make. So if we look at a 20% increase in OEE at the bottleneck, we see that within 5 weeks, in week 2, we can get 20% more throughput, more shipments, which is then collected. If we assume 30 days for AR and AP, it's then collected 30 days later, and we have 20% more in collections. That is because OEE translates 100% into shipments. You are basically getting 20% more done with the same people. Now, at the same time, I'm also going to show in this webinar how you can affect the receipts. And this is the typical results that we see, and that is why I've been charged in these situations only for the difference in EBITDA or cash flow that I make. So large increases in 5 weeks. And if you speak to most banks or bankruptcy professionals, a lot of the accepted knowledge is that you cannot make fast changes or big changes in the first 13 weeks. And my point today is we should challenge this. It is possible. Is a company's fear is often getting them to release orders earlier or to get more inventory on hand because we're already late with the orders that we have. And that vicious cycle needs to be reversed. So I recently worked with a tool importer. I met with this person and I asked him what his situation was. He's saying he was getting crushed by a big asset-based lender in Chicago. And I asked him for 2 things. I said, can you give me your on-hand quantities for every SKU that you have on hand today? And what is your movement per week for each one of those SKUs? So with that information, within 24 hours, I was able to tell him, I can generate so many millions in cash for you. It was more than $2 million, and he was maxed out on his borrowing base. So that made a big impression on him, and he retained us later that week to start the process. So we also guarantee availability while doing this. But let me show you how this works. Inventory simulation, which I will do, all you need is the demand per week and what they have on hand, the quantity on hand. And the simulation simply projects how, if you only replenish when you need it, and on this case, it's on a 6-week basis, if you just replenish what you need, how much will you release in cash? And this is basically what's happening in the simulation. So this is a whole lean methodology that's available around the world, but it's not 100% used in the stress situations, which means a lot of cash is being left on the table. This is how much cash we are talking about. They had 13 million in stock, and we show that just by letting the items naturally run at their natural pace, we're not accelerating anything. We can get 33% of their inventory converted into cash within 13 weeks. And that is at a time when no one in the world will give this company more money. And this company was on the brink of bankruptcy. And this company ended being sold to competitors. And of course, we all know that we need people to execute it. We cannot come in as a consultant and be the one to only direct the operations to run differently. The people need to understand what they're doing, and we need to have the right people on the bus. So this is an example of a company where we went in and we basically do a DISC assessment. This person in the middle here, for instance, was the production manager, and we measure this person's natural wiring to that of a production manager. And we see this is a 40% fit. So in this case, this will be the start of a conversation. We don't use this tool just to change people on the spot. So between people and operational processes, we need to normally overcome an obstacle like this. If you look at any 8-hour shift, there will be certain value-added parts where your machines are running, or your people work on value-added tasks if you're a service business, but there will be a lot of wasted time as well, where people waiting for new work to come, or they're doing work that's not really necessary. So I'll give you a few examples. This is a printing press. I was an interim manager for this company. They're on the West Coast, and they were running at 7% OEE. So we improved this to 20%. That's almost free time. And in this case, we took this company from minus 10% net profit to a positive 10% net profit, a huge change. Often this can be a way to reduce your backlog. If there's no backlog, you can reduce shifts. You can go from a 3-shift operation to a 2-shift operation to a 1-shift. Or if you're running 4 plants, you can go to 3 plants, 2 plants as you improve this. But the big realization here is an OEE increase. If you increase OEE by 5% or 10%, your gross margin increases. It's a huge impact on your projection. And a lot of turnaround professionals are not taking this properly into account when doing a projection for a company. So this is huge. And that is why we've been able to charge for results since 1999. Of course, market constraints come into this too. So in order to do that, we rank our clients on a 1 to 10 scale, from an order taker being 1 to a world-class marketer. We say, which of these have your clients at the moment? That 95% of the clients that you aren't speaking to, that haven't purchased from you in the past, where are they? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on Instagram? We should always push the power back to our people by empowering them. We talk about it a lot in business, but it's not done. I claim in my book that people who get a salary are totally blindfolded. We should open their eyes by letting them participate in incentive schemes. We add an incentive. We said anything above the 20% OEE baseline, we will pay out to people on a paycheck to paycheck basis. Every 2 weeks, they get extra money just by keeping these robots operating for a higher percentage of the time. And that starts opening their eyes to the real potential. And then I rank the operators or the machines. This operator or machine is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that gives the people at the bottom a target to aim for, but it also creates that awareness of, I'm at the bottom, I need to really think about what I'm doing and find a different way of doing it. So you bring all of the main people that can affect the machine's performance, you bring them together, and they list what are the reasons for the downtime, what are the improvements that they have to do, and they go away and on a daily basis, they knock these items off and you get a huge jump in performance on the spot. you basically look at rocks, pebbles, and sand. Rocks are the big, important tasks, but you have to balance these three. And the way to do this is to make it visible. In most knowledge environments, these rocks, pebbles, and sand are invisible. So to make it visible, most environments will look like this. So it's quite easy to do this in a knowledge environment. You don't need to be a product company. There was a culture in this company that was quite unusual. This is Richard White. He's a billionaire. This company is now valued at $21 billion. And this is what they managed to do. We call it a viable vision. It's a challenge that we put out to companies to turn your revenue into your profits in 4 years. So they did it here. If you look at, they were 66 million in revenue in 2014, and they turned that by 2018 into 78 million in EBITDA. Astonishing. And they've done it again. This is an example of the belts that we award to people every Monday in a company that we run. Your Sensei, our mentorship program, will send a list of the credits that the people earned last week. This is the belts that we award them. People will go from a yellow belt to a master black belt by learning, by going through training, but also by applying it. And then this is what we are doing in MorrisAnderson today. A traditional assessment for a company that is in violation of its loan covenants will be typically 3 weeks. It will be based on hourly billings, and that can sometimes be for a family business, a complete payroll. What we are saying is try to do a light approach as early as you can. 2 days on site, we give a report within a week. Sometimes we do this free of charge, sometimes we charge money, but much less than the traditional approach. And we report on what is your scientific capacity utilization, how quickly can we change it over time, and we put our money where our mouth is. We only charge for results. Increase EBITDA, and we even guarantee availability of product in these situations. This is how a typical baseline will look. And then we say, this is the baseline. Anything above this, we share 10 to 20% of. And these are some of the companies that will report at these international conferences. Walmart, Amazon, Delta Airlines, Ford, large companies. So by joining this knowledge, you are not only relying on MorrisAnderson or our book of knowledge. This is an international methodology that is being improved around the world all the time. So my challenge to you today is become part of the solution by challenging the status quo. When people say you cannot make large impact on family businesses in 13 weeks, say why not? Demand the use of scientific capacity tools like OEE and the people metrics that we show. Use our light assessment to get an early view of the options and then participate with us to learn the techniques. So that is a way that you can bring these best solutions to your business owner clients when they need it both. I'm open to any questions. We do have a few minutes left.
I think this is excellent. Thank you, Kobus. It's sort of quite enlightening.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, Kobus. I would think private equity firms that have, 10, 20 portfolio companies, there must be at least, 20 or 30% that would be interested in, improving their EBITDA. So yes. It's just hard to imagine otherwise.
Yes. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it. And let's see how this can be applied.
Thanks, Kobus.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.